Welcome into a Monday edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, presented this week again by our good pals over at DraftKings. I'm Nick Whalen. He is Alex Barutha. Alex, we are just over 24 hours away from opening night in the NBA. As you know, I'm spending a lot of time on football this time of year. You know, a lot of just sports fans in general, probably pretty dialed in on the baseball playoffs, on the NFL. Look, I'm ready for opening night. I'm really excited. We already have a starting lineup confirmed for the Houston Rockets, which is, from a logistical standpoint, just fantastic for what we do over at RotoWire. But how are you feeling heading into opening night? What is your excitement level for this season relative to seasons past? I mean, you're as dialed in as anyone I know year round on the NBA, but every season kind of has its unique feel. So what is your level of excitement as we get closer to Tuesday night?
It's pretty high, man. I think this is going to be a great year. Like you and I were talking. We did an NBA betting preview show on Sirius XM, and so a lot of it was like looking at the futures odds, players, teams, whatever. And you start looking at some of these awards or some of these teams to make the playoffs and not make the playoffs. The field is stacked across the
Yeah.
board. Like there's basically one award where I'm not that interested in, which is just like Defensive Player of the Year or maybe even
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year because of Cooper Flagg. But you looking at MVP. There's like 25 guys in the NBA right now who can at least put
Yeah.
up MVP type numbers. It's I'm really excited for the year.
I think much like last year too, we have a reasonable amount of parity around the NBA.
Yeah.
Like obviously OKC is kind of your incumbent in the West, and it feels like New York and Cleveland are kind of on their own tier perhaps in the Eastern Conference. But I've been kind of shocked how many people I've listened to and talked to over the last couple of months. Like, have you heard anybody like pounding the table to bet OKC to win the finals? Like maybe it's just because the odds are what they are. But for as dominant as the Thunder were throughout the regular season, throughout the postseason, like this doesn't feel anything like the Durant Warriors or even like the LeBron Heat or anything like that. Like there's still almost like a healthy doubt. It feels like with OKC, and with some of the changes that we've seen in the Western Conference, with the amount of depth in that conference, like for as great as OKC was last season, I'm just surprised that there isn't a little bit more hype around that team. Like everybody just wants to talk to me about Denver.
Yeah, I think part of it is because the Thunder, for how great they are kind of, I don't want to say they're boring, but their team is so set already.
Yeah,
Like
right.
in theory, those guys that they have are going to be their guys indefinitely. And nobody likes to be like, yeah, I got this really great bet for you, the
Yeah,
favorite. But I think they're going to be great again. You think about, I mean, the thing is the West is so loaded. Like so many of these teams are interesting. I think that's some of it is like the teams around them
yeah,
have reloaded or changed in some way. Like it's hard to find a team in the West that if you go back at least to the trade deadline last year,
right.
didn't do something big to try to compete against OKC.
Yeah, maybe that's the better question. It's like how many teams? We'll just start with the West. Like how many teams in the West are you looking at and just saying like I'm just not really interested in watching that team, because even the Utah Jazz, it's like I cannot wait to see what Ace Bailey is.
Sure. How many teams am I not that interested in?
Like
The
Phoenix,
Kings?
the
The
Kings.
Kings?
Yeah,
I
unfortunately the
think
Kings.
I think the Kings are probably bottom of the barrel for me because
Yeah,
the Blazers are fun. And the thing about the Suns is I think they're going to have some bad games, obviously. But Devin Booker might have to score 30 every night, and
right.
that's going to be, relatively entertaining. And I think they're going to play hard. So yeah, the
Yeah.
West, it's just everyone's pretty much watchable.
Yeah, well, I think you phrased it well, which like even the quote unquote bad teams, like there's something intriguing going on with all of them. Whether it's Ace Bailey in Utah, whether it's okay, what does Jalen Green look like in a new situation?
Yeah.
Could he take any sort of meaningful step forward? I mean, Mark Williams, come on, Malawach, I think is kind of a fascinating center rotation for the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, I'm with you on the Kings, man. I feel for the Kings. Sabonis going to be out to start the season. DeRozan's been banged up. Malik Monk has been banged up. Since we last talked, they brought in Russell Westbrook, which is just as Kings as it gets. Like, how has he not played for the Kings yet?
That's a great question. I saw a lot of people, pulling the "we just want Russ to be Russ" quotes from every single coach in the past 5 years that's ever had him on the
Man,
roster. And I really don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, I the thing is, almost no Westbrook outcome this season would shock me. Like if they bring him in and he plays 12 minutes a game, that wouldn't shock me. If they bring him in and he just kind of muscles his way into like 26 minutes because the team is just so sleepy
yeah.
otherwise, and they're so desperate for any sort of depth that they start playing like Zach LaVine at power forward. But
Yeah.
it's yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of these parallels, I think, over the years, but like the Kings are kind of like the Raiders, if you're an NFL fan, where it's like there are certain guys who you just know are going to end up on the Raiders because of like their tastes and preferences. Like they're more willing to take risks on these like obvious bust type of players. And like this is I don't even, I'm trying to think of like a 1-to-1, but like there are just certain guys in the NFL that it's like, yep, he's going to be a Raider. And Russell Westbrook was always destined to be a Sacramento King at some point. We already got some great questions stacking up in the chat here. If you're watching along on YouTube, we'll get to some of those in a moment. We'll talk about, some last second fantasy advice we can give out. I know you did a great Q&A over the weekend on Twitter, Alex, that did a ton of engagement and got a lot of great questions. So we could talk about some of the big themes there. Then just some questions that we have that we hope will be answered early this fantasy season. But before we do that, we are brought to you by Chalkboard. Cash in your NBA picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players get $20 free with no deposit required. Yes, you heard that correctly. $20 free just for signing up. You can see why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or just hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines. Get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30-plus states. Download Chalkboard today. Use our code ROTONBA, ROTONBA. That's ROTONBA. Put that in over at Chalkboard. Get $20 free with no deposit required. All right, let's dip into some of the questions where we're getting here. The Intrepid Cephalopod says, happy tip-off week, guys. Happy tip-off week to you as well. Apparently ended up settling on a, quote, abstract impressionist build in 10-team 8-cat. Thoughts on Scottie Barnes? Feels a bit off the radar versus all of the Amen Thompson, Josh Giddey, round 2, round 3 hype. Yeah, Scottie Barnes is a really interesting case, Alex. It's somebody we should probably have talked a little bit more about heading into opening week. As you know, I had a lot of Scottie Barnes last season. Wasn't ideal. What are your thoughts on Barnes and what is just this kind of, in some ways, reshaped, maybe just healthier Raptors roster?
We've all ended up with an abstract impressionist build at some point in our fantasy basketball lives. I think it's a mixed bag for Scottie because in theory his upside is much lower than it was in previous seasons, right? He's no longer necessarily the number one focus of the franchise or of the offense. You have Brandon Ingram in there. You have Emmanuel Quickly in there driving things. And when you look at his preseason numbers, there's some good and some bad. Like hit per 36, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, a block. He also only shot 36% from the field.
Yep.
His attempts were there, right? And there's only so much you can look into preseason numbers. I still think that if you're drafting Scottie Barnes at the back end of the second round or sometime in the third round, he just has such a high floor because of his versatility that it's not something I'm totally worried about.
I'm generally pro Scottie Barnes bounce back. I don't like, we haven't seen the linear progression, right? I think that's kind of the concern is, 2 years ago, we're talking about this guy, potentially tracking as a future first round pick.
He made an all-star game.
Yeah, right. I mean, part of it is he's taking more threes. He basically doubled his 3-point attempts from his first 2 years to the next 2 years. And then you're like, okay, why did he go from shooting 49% to 44%? That's a big part of the reason. He's not a great free throw shooter. So, in category leagues, that's going to hurt you a little bit, but it's not terrible. We're talking 75, 78%. You can offset that. But the diversity in the defensive stats plus the assists and rebounds, I think is what is keeping me drawn in. But the lack of consistency night to night, I think was something that showed up a little bit more last season. And maybe we can just throw out, the final 15, 20 games when the Raptors were like pulling him after 2.5 quarters. So that does factor in, but at the end of the day, in what felt like a down disastrous season, he missed time. The Raptors were terrible. Still gave you 19, 8 and 6 with 1.5 steals, 1 block, over a 3-pointer per game. And the percentages, again, not great, but not a killer.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, they were pulling his minutes. So if you look at his full season stats, he's like 32, 33 minutes. When most of his career, he's a 35-minute a game guy. If he goes back to playing 35 or even 36 minutes, I could certainly see a bounce back from him.
All right, we got a question here just asking us some thoughts on this team that our pal P-Dub has assembled. So this is a 10-team 9-cat league. He's got Jokic, Maxey, Derek White, Adebayo, Jaren Jackson, Porzingis, Nembhard, Khalil Ware, Zubac, Ace Bailey, Devin Vassell, your guy, Matas Buzelis, and then stashing DeJounte on IR. Pretty damn good
I
team.
love that. I love that team. Yeah. Your little like your Triple J, Kristaps Porzingis sort of like injury issues are kind of there, but you have Jokic who can play center, and you have Ware and Zubac. Like you're really center heavy. So I think you'll be fine in that sense.
Yeah, well, you got a couple big men who pass too. You know, my first thought was the assists, but then it's like, all right, well, you got Jokic. You know, Bam gives you some assists. I think you balance the risk reward with guys like Porzingis and Jaren Jackson, and even if you want to throw Murray in there, by getting like the most dependable guy in Nikola Jokic, and then giving yourself multiple secondary options at center. Like taking a lottery ticket on Khalil Ware to me makes a ton of sense, and then you have like the second safest center in Zubac on this roster. I like this a lot. I mean, really no glaring weaknesses. Kool-Aid Trippin says, good day, gents. Keep 4 of these players and why. So we got to look for 4 keepers here. We'll try to go through this quickly. Hauser, Boucher, Keyshawn George, Nesmith, Jeremy Grant, the GOAT, Cason Wallace, and Isaiah Collier.
I would say Keyshawn George stands out to me right away. I think he had a great preseason. He looks really good. I'm on the Keyshawn George hype train. I think Nesmith is going to have a good year. I kind of wonder if Nesmith is going to be the guy everyone hopes Sam Hauser is to some extent. Like, I don't think Nesmith's going to launch up the volume of threes, but he has the defensive upside. So I like Keyshawn George, Nesmith, Boucher. We know the front court in Boston's up for grabs. I've drafted a ton of Boucher in best ball. After that, I would probably lean Cason Wallace. Because I'm not really a Collier guy, but I'll let you.
Yeah, it was going to be between those two for me as well. It's certainly not Jeremy Grant, who I'm kind of done with him at this point. Yeah, Collier's tough. I mean, to me there shouldn't be like a massive drop off. You know, I guess is he leading your offense and playing 35 minutes a game like he was down the stretch? I know you're pretty high on Keontae George, and that's kind of a tough group to balance because there is a fair amount of overlap between what those two guys do well. Part of it depends on like where are they playing Ace Bailey? Like, are they going to go big with like Kessler, Markkanen, Hendricks, Bailey? Like, is Bailey your 2 guard? If so,
it seems like they might. Yeah.
Yeah. If that's the case, then I think you got to be a little worried about either Collier or George. Like, both guys could play. They'll both be in the top 7 in that rotation. But a big part of the reason Collier was so valuable down the stretch was this, 30 plus minute workload.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, even if you just go based off of draft pedigree, it would not be shocking if Walter Clayton was just better than Isaiah Collier this year, like right away. And you have Bryce Sensabaugh that needs minutes, and I don't know what's going to happen with Cody Williams. So I think some of it is like Collier can't shoot. Yeah. And Clayton, I think, is going to be good. And I'm high on Keontae George. So I'm just like I can't really be in on Collier also.
Yeah. Well, and the Jazz are just one of those teams where like the rotation is liable to change every night, every week. There's not a, all right, when healthy, we kind of know what this is going to look like. Like it's always going to be up in the air with Utah. And yeah, I'm with you on Clayton. I mean, I think you draft him to be kind of an instant impact guy. He's I think we talk about some of these older prospects, like they're coming into the league at 31. But the whole idea with him is he's ready to contribute right away. So yeah, good points by you there. DJ says, what's up, boys? I'm in a 10-team head-to-head points league, got offered LeBron for Norman Powell. I ended up rejecting it because I'm higher on Powell than most, but do you think I made the right choice?
LeBron questions are tough.
Yeah.
I've been doing more real drafts, obviously, at this point in the year. We have a draft coming up. We have multiple drafts coming up tomorrow, actually. You and I, 2 auction leagues.
Yeah.
And I think that's the question. Like, what do we do with LeBron? Because he's pretty much confirmed out for, I don't know, is he confirmed out for a month? It's pretty likely he misses. Mid-November. And sciatica, pretty much anybody you talk to that's dealing with it, assuming you think this is a real injury, which some people probably don't. Assuming
As opposed to what?
Just hanging out, mad that it's Luka's team. You know
maybe.
LeBron. You know what he does.
I do.
but everyone who talks about this, who's had it, says like this is a horrible, like this hurts, it's terrible. You think you're back and you're not. So I think he's kind of like a 5th round guy at this point. I'd feel pretty decent if I drafted LeBron in the 5th. But would I trade him for Norm Powell? I don't know. I think I would rather have Braun, but honestly, it may end up being a headache all year rostering LeBron. So I don't I
Yeah.
don't blame you for just holding strong.
Yeah, Powell is like the perfect player to bring up in this context because like anybody worse than Norm Powell, I'd be like, yeah, you got a chance on
Right.
LeBron. But like, I mean, it really just comes down to what is your guess, and it's not even in like an informed guess. It's just what is your guess on how many games LeBron plays? Because if he plays, I don't know, 60 plus, 55 plus, it's still probably LeBron for me. But if you just if you're more so of the camp of like, I just don't want to deal with this, you know, maybe you're in a league with like weekly lineups and he's going to be in and out. There's a case here. I mean, on its face, it's like, all right, who you got, LeBron or Norm Powell? It seems kind of crazy, but you know, we've all learned, I think, that when you take a chance on an injured player and they're in and out of the lineup, like the frustration just builds to the point, it's like, and you're scared to drop them, you're scared to trade them. It kind of hampers you throughout the season as far as like how you can even change your team on the fly.
And I'll say, uh, if being in a 10-team league, I think I'd be more likely to take LeBron just because your waiver wire options
Yeah,
are pretty extensive. So you might be able to stream in guys who are like relatively in Norm Powell's range because Powell doesn't do anything but score, and that's great for
yeah,
points leagues. But it only, he's not going to score 30 a game. So I mean,
yeah,
I think I would have taken LeBron, but it's easy for me to sit here and say when you're the one who got the trade offer for a guy who's going to be out for a month and
yeah.
maybe 2 months.
Well, it also depends how many other risks you have on your roster. You know, it's like, are you already over leveraged with guys who could go either way? You know, if you built a really safe roster and LeBron is like the one guy who could push you over the top if things break right, you know, then I'd be more willing to make a deal like that. But if you already have, you know, let's say 2 or 3 other guys you're worried about, you don't want to add to that injury risk. Defensible certainly to pass on the steal. Another question from DJ. He says, "What are your thoughts on Cam Johnson this year, specifically in a head-to-head points league?"
Head-to-head points, I mean, I think he's fine. He's not someone I'm necessarily targeting. I think he comes out in our points league projections around 140, and some
Yeah,
of that is because we bake in his injury history. So I think we have him projected for something like 65 games,
yeah,
maybe at most. And he's a really good player, but he thrives on his efficiency, and that's a category league thing. So I think he's like, and there are other upside guys available in that range that I think I would rather
yeah.
have. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the efficiency and then the 3-point volume, which is just, you know, more valuable when you're counting the 3-point category specifically. So yeah, knock him down a little bit in points leagues, but I'm high on him in general. Like I love the fit in Denver. I think he's gonna be fed the best looks of his career, and you know maybe it does amount to a lot of just kind of catch and shoot, but I think that's ultimately fine. You know, I think Denver kind of spotlighted him for a reason as the guy that they wanted to replace Michael Porter Jr. So yeah, high on him overall, but don't go crazy in points leagues. Daniel says, "Hey gang, a little worried I flubbed in a 10-team 9-cat league. They used assist to turnover ratio instead of turnovers. Here are my top 11 picks: Wembanyama, Amen Thompson, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Brandon Miller, Asar Thompson, Payton Pritchard, Madas Buzelis, Shaden Sharp, Donovan Clingan, Alex Sarr. Thoughts?"
I think it's a great team. That you might like,
Yeah,
there are going to be some people who might think that the Asar pick is a reach, but he would have gone probably the next round if you didn't take him, I would assume. And I think he's going to be really good. And it only helps with the Jagan Ivy injuries. It's going to be more
yeah.
for Asar. So that's a bump. The fact that you got Klingon and Sar both that late, like I'm a big Sar guy. I think I don't think you flubbed at all.
No, I think you're in pretty good shape here. I'm trying to kind of run like the mental math on, you know, where you might be a little bit deficient, but you know, it's like you have like the guy who wins you blocks if he stays healthy. You have the guy who wins you steals if he stays healthy in Dyson Daniels. So I kind of like locking down those defensive categories. You know, Wembanyama being like the high volume 3-point shooter that he is now, I think that's kind of an underrated perk of his profile. You know, you're not going to get a ton of that out of the Thompson twins. But I like the shots you took late in the draft, right? Like you're locking
Yeah.
down a guy in Pritchard who I think is going to be high volume threes. And then I think pretty much all the guys that he gambled on late, Buzelis, Shaden Sharp, Klingon, Sar, these are like all guys that between you and I, we really like.
Yeah, 100%. Those are great flyers.
Not a question, but just a statement here from Danny. He says, Embiid will play 65 games this season. Do you have insider information? What do you know? We'll turn this into a question. So Embiid's played 19 games last year, 39 the year before, 66, 68, 51, 51. So that's going back 6 seasons. Well, if I give you 48 and a half as the number for Embiid, games played, where are you going?
Like a soft over on 48 and a half. But okay. I don't feel good about it. That's for sure. I think I kind of believe that. Just maybe out of hope. I don't know. And I think it's possible they manage his minutes too.
Yeah.
You know, I could see him playing 27, 28 minutes a game and being a little healthier. 48's a low number though, man. That's a great line. It
is, yeah. Not bettable right now. I don't think in any major books, unfortunately. But yeah, I will be staying away from Embiid. Look, the NBA is better when stars are healthy. I don't care what you think about Joel Embiid. You know, he's somewhat of a polarizing personality. I want him out there. I'm not rooting for Joel Embiid to miss games by any means, but not a path I'm willing to go down in fantasy.
I want to. Okay, so I have the NFBKC High Stakes Fantasy Basketball League pulled up right now. Their ADP.
Yep.
What do you think is the earliest Embiid has gone, and what do you think is the latest Embiid has gone? This is 21 drafts over the past week. So
the earliest he's gone, I think it's going to be way higher than we think. I'm going to say he's gone as high as 13.
It's actually way lower than I thought. 34.
Really? Okay. See, yeah, I would think that in a format like that where you have high stakes players, some people are, they're drafting 10 teams, 20 teams. You'd think somebody would do all right, well, what if Embiid does play 68 games build?
It's possible that I only have the last week of data. Let me grab all 67 drafts right now. The highest he's gone is 28.
Okay.
It's a high. Wow. What do you think the latest he's gone is? The guy who just like, I don't want him, but he just keeps falling. How far do you think Embiid has fallen?
This is an impossible question. I would say 88.
You're close. 82.
Okay. Yeah,
that's insane value. Like it's going to be annoying, but 82.
Yes. Crazy. I mean, it's like, who are you picking between at that point? Yeah. I look, I will take the risk on Joel Embiid if he's available to me with the 82nd pick in a fantasy draft. All right. We'll hit some more questions. We'll talk about some things we're looking for on opening week when we come back. But quick message from our friends over at DraftKings. Listen up. Our partners at DraftKings Pick 6 have a deal you don't want to miss. New DraftKings customers, this one's for you. When you play $5 or more on your first paid Pick 6 entry, you get $50 in bonus picks instantly. That's right. Play $5, get $50 in bonus picks to keep building your slips and take your shot at big payouts. Just tap on the link in the description below to sign up and start playing. If you've been thinking about trying Pick 6, now's the time to get in. Just use that link to sign up, and all new DraftKings customers can play $5, get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Let's build some slips. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 8887-897777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable. Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Ends November 3rd, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. See full terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. All right. Want to thank our friends over at DraftKings. Go check out Pick 6. By the way, great time to jump in on opening night if you kind of want to vary the ways that you are, finding ways to make a little cash on the NBA this season. All right, let's hit a couple more questions here. I had some good ones stacking up. Getting a lot of Sam Hauser questions today. Good, which is good. I think people kind of know what we're about on this show, Alex. But I want to go to David here. He says, do you guys think Sabonis is a bust this season? I've been in talks for a Sabonis and Butler for Cade and Zion trade.
Sabonis and Butler for Cade and Zion. That's
very
interesting
deal. Yeah,
I might rather have Cade and Zion. In a points league, this is closer. In a category league, I might take the risk with Zion. But I think Sabonis is a bust. First of all, we should say he's out for a week to start the year at least with a grade 1 hamstring. Don't be shocked if that bleeds into like 2 weeks or something like that. He didn't play particularly well after De'Aaron Fox got traded last season. Maybe some of that is just being really unfamiliar with playing with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and just a strange roster. I think he'll still be good. Honestly, I'm not worried about like a complete bust, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he took a small step back.
I think there's a difference between us being down on the Kings and being down on Sabonis specifically. Like, about as consistent as it gets. Doesn't really have a bad health history. I guess are we in the zone with the Kings where you would worry about a shutdown? And we're not talking Jazz bad, but there's going to be a realization point here, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this team was on like a 30-win pace.
Yeah.
And it just got bad, and they think about trading Sabonis or basically just blowing up the roster, even though it doesn't seem like that's what ownership wants to do. But I wouldn't predict a major bust for Sabonis.
Thoughts on Ivica Zubac this year? Our question asker says, got him in the third round in one of my leagues. I've seen people down on him. This is a good question because I think if you're like playing catch up a little bit, if you're just doing your homework for fantasy basketball, getting ready for the season, seeing that ADP for Zubac might be a little alarming.
Yeah, because he was great last year, ranked 53rd in 8-cat, averaged 40 fantasy points per game. I think the reason it's just much easier to predict him declining in his production than improving, and that's partially because the Clippers went out and they signed Brook Lopez, and they went out and they signed John Collins, and I don't think those guys are not going to challenge Zubac for his role as a starter. But Zubac played 33 minutes a game last year, which is a career high. Most of his career, he's been like a mid to high 20s guy. So if they pull back his minutes a little bit to save him for the playoffs, that would be a lot less surprising than him seeing more minutes, getting better.
Yeah.
That sort of a thing.
Yeah, this one feels like maybe the ADP has crept up just a little too high. And I guess the fact that Zubac never misses games is part of it, right? Like he's always ranked higher total value than per game value. And, the list of players you can trust to play 70 plus games dwindles every year. So I think that's part of the reason. But, I think he was one of those guys that has gone from like every auction draft that you and I would do. We're like, all right, I want Zubac because he's going to go for less than he should because he's not recognized as a star player. And you're going to get a really nice return on value. Whereas he's kind of now to the point where it's like you're drafting him at close to his peak. And like you said, he's not the type of player who can like do a whole lot more than he's asked. There are plenty of options for the LA Clippers, even if and when the injuries set in. But he's gone from one of the better values, a guy who could exceed his ADP by 2 or 3 rounds, to okay, now we're taking him at the peak.
Yeah, and I get it because I think he's just kind of in that mass of centers that go in like the 4th or the 5th round.
Yeah.
And if you're looking like, oh, I need a center, and you're like, well, I could take Zubac, I could take Duren, I could take Embiid, I could take Porzingis, I could take Vucevic. Like, I think it's pretty easy to look at Zubac and just kind of decide like he's the best of that group.
Yeah.
So maybe he just gets pushed to the top of a sort of draft tier.
Got a couple questions about the Brooklyn Nets, specifically Egor Demin. Do you think he's going to start at point guard? Is he 12-team worthy? Another question about Demin saying, I'm planning to drop him, drop Isaiah Collier to pick up Egor Demin. The Nets in general have been kind of a black hole for me. Just so many young players on this team. And then you got these 2 high usage gunners in Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr. But where have you ended up settling on Demin?
Taking him in a couple spots, but always with like a last pick. And, it's not great that he's coming off a foot injury, a plantar fascia tear, which those things are not easy to recover from. I think that's like Wendell Carter Jr. was dealing with that for a while, and he just in and out every game. Yeah. So I think I'm lower on Demin than I was before just because of the injury. I still think he's worth like maybe a last pick. I do expect him to start, maybe not right away because of the injury, but that team, like you alluded to, it's totally impossible to predict. I wouldn't necessarily drop Collier for him though, if that's your question.
Okay. Thoughts on Quentin Grimes, Alex? And this kind of leads into one of my like big questions for the start of the season is just, what are the 76ers, in theory, when healthy, outside of Paul George, who, we don't expect to be out there to begin the season. Like there's so much appealing depth, and there are so many like dark horse fantasy heroes on this team, like guys that we have definitely streamed at the end of seasons. Like I'm not afraid to admit I've had Adam Bona on some teams. I've looked at Justin Edwards before. Eric Gordon used to be that guy for years. Kelly Oubre has always been in that conversation. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction on the win total because that's an impossible question, but the Sixers in general, once again, a fascinating team, and should be a little more opportunity, you would think, for Quentin Grimes early on.
Yeah, I would sort of project Grimes Like if he does what he did over the course of all of last season, that's more or less what I'm projecting. So like plays minutes in the high 20s, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, that sort of a thing. I think you can draft him inside the top 100. I don't necessarily think I would because I sort of do expect it almost has to be better health luck, from
Yeah.
Paul George and Joel Embiid, and Maxey wasn't playing in a lot of those games, and Edgecombe looks pretty
Yeah.
good. So to me, Grimes is sort of like a post 100 flyer, but I don't think he has that high of a ceiling unless people get hurt.
Well, where are you at on Edgecombe while we're on the 76ers? Where are you willing to take him?
Um, Same thing basically.
Yeah.
Outside of the top 100. Again, I think he's good. I think he's looked good. Totally passes the eye test for me.
Yeah.
Like that dude is fast. Him and Maxey are going to be ridiculous in transition together, but not a guy who projects to be a top 3 or even 4 usage guy on the 76ers this season.
For now.
That's
the
this
thing,
season.
right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm saying, when those guys are healthy, that's like how many games is he going to be your second option?
That's a good question. I do wonder if he would be the second option if George and Embiid were out.
Right.
But we know Oubre loves to chuck up his shots, and Grimes kind of did his thing.
Yeah.
And McCain is eventually going to come back. Jared
exactly.
McCain. So,
dude, there's a ridiculous amount of depth on this team. Like I just, I really wish Embiid, like Paul George, whatever. You can live with that. It feels like every team has like a star you got to worry about at this point in their career. But it's like, man, if Embiid just had like a slightly better health track record, I'd be really interested in this team, because as much as we like clown the 76ers for committing to George and committing to Embiid, it's like they've actually done a lot of other things right, I think, building out this roster.
Yeah, it is a roster that can survive some injuries, which is what they need.
All right, let's finish out, Alex. And if we want to get back to the chat, we can. Well, we'll see what we get for questions here. But I want to go through just a handful of, kind of what are we looking for over opening night, over opening week, just kind of could be trends, could be new faces in new places. Like one that I have written down here is I want to see Desmond Bane in Orlando. I want to see, will the Orlando Magic shoot more than 33s per game? Will they shoot 30% as a team? Can one man drag them above that in Desmond Bane? But the Orlando Magic, I think kind of Orlando and Detroit are in like the same pocket for me of like teams that we have not been excited about in forever. Positive momentum, both dealing with some injuries to Suggs and Ivy coming into the season. But Orlando specifically, like can they kind of modernize this offense, and how much can Desmond Bane specifically lead to that?
I think Desmond Bane is going to be massive for Orlando. Could not be higher on. You could argue maybe they gave up too much for him, but like in terms of we have a specific need, can we find one player who fits that?
Yeah,
it was a great trade. And I'm curious to see what that opens up for Banchero. Like Banchero needs that floor spacing, because I think he's someone who, obviously he likes to play more around the basket, and I think he needs to get more of those advantages from spacing. Wendell Carter Jr., I'm not ready to buy back in, but he's actually had a really, really strong preseason. Jalen Suggs is unhealthy, unfortunately, but that team is really, I think, has a pretty high ceiling.
I think so too, but they do need to stay healthy, because there is not much of a bench in Orlando.
No.
And that was a big issue last year. They didn't really fix that, and part of it is when you're committing that many resources to Desmond Bane, you're going to be a little bit limited. But I like Tyus Jones, I guess, as a fill-in point guard. How much can you get out of Jace Richardson? Is Jett Howard an NBA player? Might be asking a lot at some point of Tristan da Silva. If either of the Banchero and Wagner tandem miss any time. So that would be kind of the concern for Orlando. But I think there's also reason to believe they'll just be healthier from a luck perspective than they were a season ago. Also very curious about the Charlotte Hornets. I know you and I and everybody, they told me on VSiN last week that the Hornets have the highest handle right now in terms of over on the win total, like higher than all the public teams. Like the Hornets are not a public team, but everybody is taking the over on the win total, which worries me quite a bit. But we get Hornets Nets on Wednesday, which is going to be an absolute league pass banger. You must watch that game. Huge opportunity for the Hornets to just come out, smack the Nets, announce that they are a real contender to go over 25.5 wins. A relatively easy schedule, by the way, early in the season. You're catching Philly on Saturday, maybe without Paul George. Not an easy game by any means, but not necessarily the full strength Sixers. You get Washington over the weekend. Can the Charlotte Hornets start the season 2-1?
I'm giving you a preview of our. I don't even know if we have our show on Wednesday. I'd be taking Hornets -5.5. Just give me that right now at home. What are the books
That's
doing?
an insane number. I know it's the Hornets. I'm seeing 4.5 at some books.
Wow.
Give me that. No, I think you mentioned it. This team is strangely deep now. I mean, I at least like their top, well, I don't even know if you consider any of their centers part of their top six.
Yeah.
But the LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Con Knipple, Miles Bridges, Sexton group is pretty good. And Bridges has been playing really well this preseason. Miller started off slow. I think played himself into it a little bit after missing a lot of last year. Knipples looked totally fine.
Yeah.
I think the triumvirate of Diabate, Kalkbrenner, and Mason Plumlee will be collectively fine. Good enough. And another team where their bench is not great. You are kind of looking at some Josh Green, Tijan Salon, Liam McNeely type stuff. A lot of 3-guard lineups with Trey Mann, who I like, but they're gonna be fun.
The question of who guards Embiid on Saturday is a valid one. Assuming Joel Embiid makes it through opening night, I don't know what you do there. Good luck to Diabate. Good luck. That's like a Kalkbrenner has 4 fouls in 8 minutes.
I was gonna say
type of spot.
That's why. Yeah, that Kalkbrenner's out there for 6 fouls that game.
Yeah. We do get Cooper Flagg versus Victor Wembanyama on Wednesday. By the way, awesome. I mean that's the low hanging fruit of all low hanging fruits. But I cannot wait to watch that game.
That's must see. It's just as early in the season, you can really just find a reason to want to watch any of these games. But that one, I'm really excited for. I mean, Wembanyama, looking like a beast this preseason, just bullying people. Him and Luke Cornett are doing a Twin Towers thing. And Flagg, I've been encouraged by his preseason, but I am curious to see how he does against this matchup. Really, who guards him?
Yep.
So you guys spend any time? Is Wemby going to guard him at all? I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, opening night we get Warriors Lakers. So this is tomorrow as we record on Monday. We got Rockets Thunder as the late game. I think both of these are pretty straightforward. With the Lakers, it's what does DeAndre Ayton look like? Does Marcus Smart have anything left in the tank? That's kind of about it. For me on the Lakers side of things. OKC, as you mentioned in the late game, they're as stable as it gets. I guess the big question is is there any sort of early season letdown? I don't really see that being the case with this team. Maybe they don't push for 65 plus wins just by virtue of trying to preserve these guys through the regular season. But I think they're a young enough team that I don't expect much of a drop off. Houston's going to be fascinating. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, we already have a starting lineup. It sounds like they're going Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant at the 2. So we're going all the way back to the PJ Carlissimo days, trying to make him a 2-guard in Seattle. Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, and Steven Adams in that projected starting lineup. So that means no Reed Shepherd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I think he's going to come in and still play 26, 27, 28 minutes.
Yeah.
But OKC is interesting. I mean, we still don't know what's going on with Jalen Williams.
Right.
We have basically no update. I don't expect him to play in this game, but we also have gotten zero indication. OKC plays their injuries pretty close to their vest too, so that's annoying. I would not be shocked if Houston came out and won this game as 7.5 point underdogs. But yeah, really interested to see what the mega size lineup is able to actually pull off, playing a bunch of minutes together, and can they actually deal with this long term?
I know we're not even one game into the season, but do you think this is the default starting lineup for Houston, or is this more of a we don't know who Reed Shepherd guards in this specific matchup?
Yeah, I would not expect this to be the default starting lineup every game. I think there are going to be some games where Sengun plays center. I think there are going to be some games where Jabari Smith is not in the starting lineup. I think it's really just Amen, KD, and Sengun are the only 3 guys I would pretty much lock into every starting lineup scenario.
So if my eyes don't deceive me here, the only 2 teams that don't play Tuesday, Wednesday are Indiana and the Denver Nuggets. Those teams both part of the 2-game Thursday package. So we get a Thunder Pacers rematch in the early window, and then we get Nuggets Warriors in the late window. We talked about Denver, as far as both of us being on the same page, really like this team 6-1 to win the finals. I think there's a lot that could be unpacked for Indiana. this isn't the NFL where you only have 17 games and each one, means a ton. So whatever happens against the Thunder, I don't think we can take that as gospel necessarily, but kind of a brutal matchup, I think, for Indiana to try to figure this out without Halliburton.
Yeah. Technically they almost did it, game 7, but this is a brand new season and they lost guys, lost Miles Turner, lost Halliburton. I think their center rotation has looked straight up abysmal in the preseason. Like, I want to be high on Isaiah Jackson and I want to be high on Jay Huff, and I kind of still have like a little Wiseman stock if he plays 15 minutes a game.
Okay.
My concern is more so that like I can actually say like maybe Wiseman gets some minutes because Jackson and Huff have looked so bad, and I think they'll figure it out. But it's possible it's just untenable, and they just end up with a lot of Obi Toppin. At center, he's looked more appealing to me as drafts have gone on. Tough matchup.
Yeah, I took him in the Razjam draft, Obi Toppin. Never super fired up about it, but yeah, it's just you look at that center depth chart, and I think they are going to default kind of more so to what they know. And obviously that lineup was really successful in the postseason. No Miles Turner, of course. So Isaiah Jackson, Jay Huff, James Wiseman, Tony Bradley, your 4 true centers on that roster. We got a message from another one of our sponsors here, Dabble. It is not just another DFS app. It's the ultimate social platform where you can connect with other fantasy sports lovers. Dabble lets you win big. You can win up to 5,000 times your money this basketball season. Starting with Dabble is easy. New users get $25 free when signing up. No deposit necessary. Check out the link in the episode description below to download the Dabble app now. All right, anything else you're looking for over these first few nights, Alex? If not, we can finish out with some questions from the chat.
I don't think anything in particular. I just want to see how some of these rotations and some of these guys, how it plays out. Like, what are the Jazz going to do? Basically the teams that like we have kind of no idea. What are the Jazz up to? Is Portland going to be able to run basically all their stuff through Shaedon Sharpe?
Yeah.
How much is Devin Booker going to have to carry the Suns? Like, I think some of these questions will be relatively answered within the first week or two.
Yeah, I think the Bulls are an interesting team to me as well. Kobe White got injured. They'll likely be without him to begin the year. I think you're a little more Buzelis curious than I am. But I think if you're making a short list of like who are the not super obvious, leap type of guys, like who could we think completely differently about 3 months from now than we do right now? I will admit he should be on that list.
Yeah, and it's funny because he's looked way, way better as a scorer than I anticipated this preseason, and has basically made 0 strides as a playmaker, like 0 passing improvements. So that's going to be interesting. But
did he work out with Melo this offseason?
He might have, man. But he looks straight, driving to the basket, drawing a bunch of free throws. But the thing is, they need a scorer when Kobe White's out. It's not like he's scoring because he is just being selfish. Like, they need a guy to go out there and just fire. So I think he'll have a really good year.
All right, let's end with a few questions from the chat here. Corey says, how do you feel about Jalen Green in fantasy? So a little bit open-ended, but I'll add to this by asking you, how much does format matter when it comes to Jalen Green?
Format matters a lot. I think in a points league, you wouldn't even be crazy if you took him like top 40. If you have pick 40 and you were like, well, I'll take Jalen Green, totally fine, because he can give you, 20 to 25 points, a few rebounds, a few assists. In category leagues, I still think he has some. I'm not like totally ready to give up on Jalen Green. And the thing is, you reach a certain point in the draft around that 75 to 100 range, and it's like, how many guys left here can score me 20 to 25 points a game? There's a handful of guys, and he's one of them. So I think if you take him at pick 75 in a category league, some people are going to say that's a reach. Oh, his field goal percentage sucks. He doesn't give you any defense, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody has major problems at pick 75. That's what we're talking about. But he's potentially a number 2 option on a team this year.
All right, we'll try to come up with a couple here. Who are your favorite mid to late round targets in points leagues? Smiley face.
In points leagues, I mean, I still think Alex Sarr can be good in points leagues. That's someone I would think about taking there. Cooper Flagg, I think, is a strong points league player, but he's going to go earlier than mid rounds in most points leagues. Julius Randle, someone I'm definitely looking at. Yeah, I think that's like kind of
Yeah.
some decent guys.
Yeah, I think Sarr is a big one for you, and I'm coming around on that. I've grabbed him in a couple drafts the last couple of weeks. I mean, there are just so many kind of like boring default guys who are just fine in points leagues. You know, like the Andrew Wiggins of the world. It's like he's going to play a lot of games. He's not going to light up the score sheet by any means, but he's probably going to give you 15 to 18 points. You know, 3 or 4 rebounds, couple assists.
I I'll think Shagan Sharp,
Yeah.
RJ Barrett, definitely like
Oh
a better
yeah.
points league
There we
guy
go.
than a category league guy.
Yeah, that's a good one. Speaking of Cooper Flagg, thoughts on Flagg going in the second round? I've been in 6 drafts so far, and people are definitely reaching for him.
I would not take him in the second round.
No.
No. I like him, but there's too much downside risk in the second round.
Yeah, it goes back to our principle that we apply to just about every rookie. If you're taking second, third round value on a rookie, you need them to have an all-time rookie season. You need them to stay healthy. You are buying at the absolute peak. We see this in fantasy football every year. It very rarely works out. We went through this with Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. Some people were taking him 12th overall, and it's like, okay, well, you basically need him to be AJ Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown right away. Like, there's no room for error here. Same with Ashton Genty in Vegas this year. Like, every now and then it works out, but you're just, even if it does work out, you're not really getting value. It's like, all right, I took a rookie with the 10th overall pick, and he finished as the RB3 in fantasy football. And it's like, okay, so you basically met value on that pick, which is fine. That's what you want to do in the first round. But there's just so much risk attached to guys that we have not seen play in the NBA. I think Cooper Flagg is going to be really good. I'm with you. Points leagues, much more willing. But it's just also a really unique roster in Dallas. You have all these big men. You have injuries that are going to change how this team plays throughout the season. Your best player is extremely injury prone and just kind of a difficult guy to work around in Anthony Davis. So I love Cooper Flagg. I'm going to, maybe I'll rue the day that I didn't draft him in the second round, but I'm not in on that price. Do you think Taylor Hendricks is going to take a leap this year, specifically as a defender?
I really like Taylor Hendricks. My issue is that he is supposed to be a 3-and-D kind of blocks and threes center.
Yeah.
And he might be guarding threes. Like, he might be guarding small forwards this year. Like, I don't think he's going to play that much backup center. That the Jazz have been playing a lot of Yusuf Nurkic in the preseason. I don't necessarily think that's going to change. They also have Kyle Filipowski. So I think he'll be solid defensively, but I'm not expecting like a statistical defensive like breakthrough.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, part of this depends on like how much are they actually playing Walker Kessler, how much center does Hendricks see, but like you also have Nurkic, who they for some reason brought in. And I think at least over the first half of the season, he's going to have a say. Like you mentioned, Filipowski, Kevin Love is on this roster for some reason. I think that's a good point. He may be better in terms of like the player that he was before the injury versus where he is now. Is that actually going to translate to more block shots because of the fact that he's playing in kind of an out of position spot for generating blocks? I think that's a really good way to look at it. But he is one of the few players on the Jazz that I am actually interested in, because I think he'll be, even if you could see them limiting him early on because of how much time he missed. I don't think that's going to be a season long thing. And I think he would be immune to the tank that is coming at some point.
Yeah, he's only 21, and they invested a lot of draft capital in him. He was a pretty high pick, so I think they want him out there, and they want him to succeed.
Will Payton Pritchard see a spike in assist rate parallel to his projected role increase this season?
I'm not sure he'll get like a massive assist spike. I think he's out there largely to shoot threes, and I think Derek White is going to be the guy who takes the biggest assist jump.
Yeah.
Probably followed by Jalen Brown, and then I would throw Pritchard in there. We'll see what happens with Simons. I think Pritchard will increase his assists a little bit, just kind of, by the nature of getting more touches. But I'm not expecting like a huge leap from him in that category.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, it kind of depends how they play this rotation, because you don't really have any 4s or 5s who are quality, passers, run things through them in the half court, so it's like if they're starting White, Simons, and Brown, and you're bringing Pritchard off the bench, who is he coming in for most often? How much is he overlapping with Derek White? Like, I think there are lineups where it maybe does make sense to use him as the primary initiator, or at least like the kind of 1B initiator. But this goes back to what you said about, wanting to see some of these rotations. Who is he spending the most time with on the court? Because if it is him alongside Derek White, I'm with you. I think Derek White is the guy who ends up orchestrating.
And my question is, if he's coming off the bench with like Baylor Shireman and Josh Minot and Chris Boucher, who is he passing to?
Right.
Like,
well, you just answered.
Better if he just went out there and just, would it be better if he just fired away, and tried to score 25 a game than pass to his teammates? I don't know.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see how many threes this team shoots. I think that's kind of their path to hanging in a lot of these games. But yeah, Boston going to be a very, very interesting team to watch. They open up home for the 76ers on Wednesday night. I'll ask you this, Alex, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, so I'll give you a moment to pull up the schedule. But on Wednesday specifically, when we have 12 games, we got League Pass, we got multiple screens. What games will be drawing your attention most? Which ones do you have circled? Like, I'm going to watch as much of this as I can.
Well, we talked about Spurs Mavericks. It's 100% on the list. Not Clippers Jazz, that's for sure. If Ja and Zion are both playing, I think Memphis New Orleans will be a lot of fun. And I mean, a lot of good games, man. Cleveland New York, like it's like that's going to be a great game, but it's going to be boring in that sense. Like there's nothing to figure out with those teams, I don't think. Like, yeah, the Knicks got a new coach and all that. But it's not that interesting.
Yeah, I Clippers Jazz to me is up there, just for fantasy purposes. I want to see what the Clippers are doing. Sure. I want to watch Ace Bailey. I think Detroit Chicago could be sneaky fun, especially if Chicago kind of picks up where it left off style wise last year. And then the other game that I would circle is Toronto Atlanta. I'm very interested in watching the Hawks, and for whatever reason, Toronto is like always a pet team for me. There's a lot of fun pieces on both of those sides. I think Toronto's rotation is one we're going to be watching and probably making a lot of changes to on our site early in the season. Game that I don't want to watch, Miami, Orlando. As excited as I am about Desmond Bane, that's the lowest total on the board, as you'd expect. Probably going to be a grind. And then, look, we're both here in the state of Wisconsin. I love the Milwaukee Bucks. It's going to be a tough sell, Bucks Wizards opening night.
It's one of those that you should, like, Bucks should just absolutely annihilate Washington, and it should be boring. My fear is that it won't be that boring, but it definitely does not have my attention as like, I gotta make sure I watch this matchup.
I believe this will be Chris Middleton's first game back in Milwaukee, right? They played like right after the All-Star break last year, but that was in Washington. Yeah. That won't be a dry eye in the house, I'll tell you that. But Chris Middleton in a Wizards jersey is still just not something you want your eyes to see. I'll tell you that. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Want to thank all of our great sponsors on this episode, presented by DraftKings, by Chalkboard, by Dabble. You can find all the info on those sponsors in the episode description here on YouTube, or if you are listening along in podcast form. As we've been doing the last few weeks, 4 episodes per week will be coming your way right here on this feed, on this YouTube channel throughout the NBA season. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a primer for opening night. This time next week, Alex, we will have a ton to try to piece through. We'll have almost a full week's worth of games. I know you and I have some big drafts still to go in the next 24 hours or so. So looking forward to that. We'll talk about the results. We'll have some articles. You can, of course, find all of our content over at rotowire.com. And you see it right there on your screen. If you want 15% off everything we offer at RotoWire, just use that code YouTube15.